Hey, it's Scott, and today I'm just going to be switching out this V-mount setup for the new one from Nitze, and I just wanted to show you that process as well as my rig overall that I've been using lately on the Zcam E2 F6. So I actually don't have a cage on the E2 F6 right now. I'm using the knock adapter from Revolver Labs right now to mount their clutch handle, so that way it's just really nice and close to the body. It feels like it's built in there, and if I take this off, I don't have anything big and clunky on the side there. I really like that setup. And then I have the actual Nitze, I guess you could call it a magic arm, magic ball arm, whatever, mount on here, because that's one of the only mounts that I could find that actually uses a 1/4-20 screw and locks into the locating pins on the body of the F6. If they made a non-magic arm type design, just a tilt and swivel monitor mount that had that same locking pin design, I would be all over it. So Nitze, I'd love to see you make one of those, but for now I'm using this and it works great. I do have to use two hands to adjust the monitor, which I would rather not have to do, but it works really great. It's solid. And on top of here I have the OC HCM 700. This is a 7-inch, I believe it was 1100 nit monitor, and it's got so many awesome features packed into here. I love the BM5, it's great in its own way, but I wanted a little bit of a larger monitor. This is built like a rock, and it has some really nice features built in here. These quick access buttons for turning on and off things like waveforms, and it has this form of focus peaking that doesn't actually use color, it just ultra sharpens the image, and I find that really easy to look at without being distracting. And it also has, of course, regular colored focus peaking, but you can also turn on a black and white image together with focus peaking, which makes it extra easy to see what's in focus. Just there's a really lot of good stuff built into this monitor. I love it. On the back I'm using the current 3D printed V-mount adapter setup that I reviewed a little while back. It's from James Davis. He made this with some custom parts. The part he made with Nitze is a lot better in a lot of different ways, so we're going to talk about that today as we get it on here. But first off, let's go ahead and strip this down so I can work with this a little bit easier. And so for now, like I said, this part here that connects the actual, this is an ANSO plate that I'm using. You can use some different plates with this new setup. This is the ANSO one that he originally used that has some different connections wired in there. And this is the 3D printed mounting block that you use to screw this directly into the Zcam body. This works on all of the Zcam bodies as far as I know, except maybe the E2C. This can take a lot more stress than some of the mounts out there that are actually just plugged right into the NPF adapter, because that's not meant for that amount of weight. So if you use something like this that screws directly into the body, then it's going to be a lot safer and you don't have to worry about damaging the actual body of the camera. So if you watch my original review of this, you'll know that I love it and it's great, but the problem is that it does take a few minutes to remove, because you have these screws here that you have to actually unscrew, and it's a little bit tricky to get to them because of this plate in the way, and if you're using a larger plate then it's even more difficult. So it does take a few minutes to remove if you want to go back and forth between a smaller build and a larger build, and also of course it's 3D printed, so maybe some people are not too happy about that, but it's been fine. It's rock solid for me. There's no problems whatsoever. However, that too means that this plate, if you want to switch out between different plates, you probably shouldn't remove and attach this too often, because it's going to put a lot of wear on that plastic mount. However, this new Nitze mount here, made from metal, it's a lot stronger, and it's going to be a lot easier to switch from a V-mount powered camera to a NPF smaller build without having to fully remove this. So let's go ahead, remove this, and get that on there. One of the problems with having to remove this entire thing means that I have to go and find the tools for these little screws every time, and I can't always remember where I put those. Let's see, it's got to be in here somewhere. It's not something I'd want to do on location. I'd lose these screws for sure. I'd have to go hunting for my tools. Just not ideal. So now that I've unscrewed that, you can just go ahead and lift it away from the body, and you can see that the ANSO plate here is hardwired to a dummy battery, which goes right into the body, and that's how it transfers the power from your V-mount into the body. And this is the original plate here, so you can see inside that it's just 3D printed. And then this plate, which is a nice plate, it's pretty heavy duty, it's all metal. I don't like this. I might have to cut this down and make this shorter, because it accidentally gets pushed sometimes when I put it in my bag especially, but I'm always worried about accidentally pushing it. But these are hardwired into here. There are some different versions of this plate I believe that he makes. This one has the MPF for the dummy battery, and then it has this DC barrel that you can use to plug into a power cable for like the BM5 or something like that, but he does make some different versions. So you get the main body of this adapter, which looks similar to this, obviously, because it's going to attach to the body the same way, but one of the biggest differences is that you have this empty space, so you can run cables through here and use it for some cable management, and also that this entire back portion will be removed just with that quick push of these buttons on either side, and then you can snap it back on. So you're going to screw your battery plate right into here, whether it's the ANSO one or another one, and then if you want to remove it, just take it off like that, and you can put an NPF battery right in here. And this is about the size of like a medium NPF battery, so in most cases that should be small enough for whatever setup you're going for in a smaller build. And you don't have to completely unscrew everything. You can just leave this on here around the NPF battery, and then when you want to go back to your V-mount setup, just boom, snap this onto there, and you're good to go. Some people said there is a little bit of play in here, and there definitely is. I don't know if you can see that on the bottom here, just because they had to leave a little bit of room to make sure that it fully clicked into place on the top there. I think they could have done something with like something that kind of slips in here and then like slips in at the bottom to lock it in place and then maybe snapped into the top, but it's not that bad. And they do have these new versions with these rubber pads that kind of fill that gap a little bit. Without this rubber pad in the bottom, I can definitely see there being an issue with that play, but here it's almost non-existent, so I don't think it's going to be a problem. Another little thing that I really like about having this design is, of course, you're going to screw your V-mount plate onto the back of here, but then you got some mounting points on the bottom as well. So if you wanted to mount a magic arm here to maybe mount a wireless video transmitter behind the battery, that would be a really good place, as long as you're not setting it down flat on the ground, obviously. But that might open up some possibilities for different mounting options if you need it back there. Of course, the Nitze part comes with all of the tools and screws that you need to get it attached to the body, and that's all that's in the box. So let's go ahead and put this onto the body of the F6. In this kit, you get two different types of screws. You have these small ones, you got 4 of these small ones, and that's to attach the bracket to the back of the camera, and then you get 2 larger ones, which I assume is to attach the actual battery plate to the cheese plate back here. But first of all, let's get the bracket attached. And I removed the cheese plate just to have a little bit more clearance to get in there and screw it in easier, which is another benefit of using this design, because with a 3D mounted design, like I said, you don't want to remove and attach that plate from the mount itself too often, because you don't want to wear out those plastic screw threads. But with this, you can just remove that whole back setup and get to those screws easy. So even if you want to remove this, it's going to be a lot easier than when you had the original 3D printed design. So that screws in there really nice and secure, and you can see that it doesn't even stick out much further than my plate on the back of the camera here, the way that this is screwed in with the safety pin and everything fitting into the bottom of the camera. So this is really a good compact design when you remove this, and if you wanted to put an NPF battery in there. Let me do that right now just to show you. This is an NPF 750 or NPF 770, and let's put that into the body here. And yeah, if it's pretty much flush with the back of that. Of course, these little things stick out a little bit, but basically that's the size that you're dealing with here. So now before we put this onto there, I'm going to attach my ANSO plate onto this cheese plate. You can see that the back of the 3D printed design also obviously only had a few screw threads made specifically for that plate, so if you wanted to attach a different plate, you would have had to have this re-custom made. It's not like you could just mix and match, but with the new cheese plate here, you have many more screw threads on here. So any standard sized V-mount plate, or even gold mount if you wanted to do that, I believe should fit on here. You can check the dimensions and the placing of the screw threads before you make any purchase, but you're going to be open to a lot more options using this instead. And there we go. So this wire here is going to go under the space that you have on the back of the bottom on here. Let's mount the dummy battery first under here. And then that goes right in that space. So this will just snap right onto the body. Find where it goes, and there we go. Boom. That's on there. So let me do that once more. You can see that the cable here goes right under. I don't know if you can see that appropriately. The cable goes right under here, has that space for it. for the dummy battery. And then you just remove this. And then you would remove the dummy battery, of course, if you want to completely remove it. But this is just going to snap right onto the body like that. And yeah, it looks good. Let's mount a V-mount battery on there and see how it feels. Recently, I've been using these V Micro from Bebob. They really are basically the same height as the body of the camera, so it doesn't add any extra height to the camera, which I like. And this 150 watt hour battery is really quite a nice size and weight. Doesn't add a whole lot. You get a lot of power for a little size. I also like the Blue Shape granite mini batteries. They are just a little bit larger than this for, you know, an equivalent size capacity. But these are really, really good for this camera. I love this combination. And also to Bebob, if you could make a plate that's compatible with this, I would buy it in a second. But for now, the plates that you have, the screw threads are placed a little bit too far apart and it wouldn't fit onto this cheese plate. So Bebob, please consider making a plate for these V Micro batteries like the same height that can fit onto this mount, and I would buy it in a second, and I would recommend it to pretty much everybody because I love these twist dtaps where you can attach the dtap cable either direction, and their V-mount plates also have that, and I love it. So please, 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 Bebob, consider doing that, and consider doing it quick because I'm impatient. And boom, there it is. That's what you got, and there's really, you know, very, very, very little play in there. It's not non-existent in case you're really paranoid about it, but it's very, very, very minimal with that new little rubber pad that they put in there. But this is a really nice solid mount, and again, like I said, it has some space here that you can use for cable management. If you have cables running back and forth, you can run them through here instead of having to go over or under or something. Let me do that right now because I do have the cable from the clutch handle that I was always running over in like an awkward way. Let me run that through here now. Squeeze this through here. That's a lot better than having to run this over or under, and it just keeps it a lot more protected and just a little bit more organized. I like that. Put my monitor back on here. This does have a little bit more clearance than the original because it has this extra plate right here. The original went back to the same size as just this mount that's actually mounted to the body, if you can see that here. So you do have a little bit more clearance, or a little bit more, you know, size, I guess you could say, if you're looking at it negatively, but you get more clearance for plugging in that cable, or if you have something that's a little bit larger, that's going to be easier. And then of course you can just remove this if you need the extra clearance to plug that in, or remove it as well. So I like that, and this is all working very, very nice. And that's the Nitze V-mount adapter for the Zcam series. If you have any questions or comments, let me know down below. I'll do my best to get back to you. And otherwise, if you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you watched this far, thank you for watching my rambling video. And I hope to see you next time.